I think back to a focus group that we watched at Obama HQ in 2012 with a voter who had backed Barack Obama in 2008 and voted for an extreme right-wing Tea Party candidate in 2010. And he said that what he wants from politics, what he wants from life, is the ability to have a good job that means he can own his own home and send his kids to college, and that the global financial crash meant that he'd lost his job, lost his home, and couldn't send his kids to college, and he was going to vote to fire people until his life got better.
Here to tell us how much hope there actually is on both sides of this, we've got Matthew McGregor, the founder and CEO of 38 Degrees, who worked in the Obama administration. Matthew, good morning from us.
Morning.
And John McHenry, the Vice President at North Star Opinion Research. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Matthew, is this Trump's for the taking?
It looks like a bruising and bad night for those of us who wanted to see a Kamala Harris victory. The counting will take a while. There is a lot of ballots to count still, but things are looking really grim. The pathway for Harris is very narrow, and the numbers that we're seeing in the states that she absolutely must now win are looking really bad.
Why is that? Can you point to the path that Trump has found to bypass any chance of a Harris success? I was questioning a moment ago whether she's a victim of incumbency.
I think that's a huge part of it. Look, this very, really early, and there's going to be a lot of time for a post-mortem, but I think back to a focus group that we watched at Obama HQ in 2012 with a voter who had backed Barack Obama in 2008 and voted for an extreme right-wing Tea Party candidate in 2010. And he said that what he wants from politics, what he wants from life, is the ability to have a good job that means he can own his own home and send his kids to college, and that the global financial crash meant that he'd lost his job, lost his home, and couldn't send his kids to college, and he was going to vote to fire people until his life got better. And what we've seen across the world is incumbents being fired because of the cost of living crisis and the way in which the economy is skewed against a lot of people who work for a living. It's always counterintuitive to think, well, why would somebody experiencing that vote for Donald Trump? But the reality is that people will vote to fire whoever's in office until their lives gets better, and that looks like what's happened here.
John, would you agree with that?
I was going to say, I don't know that I could say it much better than that. If you look at the realignment of Republicans versus Democrats, with the working class, especially whites, but now Latinos joining them, voting more so for Republicans, and the higher educated whites voting almost in lockstep for Democrats, you see those economic numbers right there. The fact that they are, more impacted by the inflation that we saw, especially over the first half of the Biden administration, that they are also clamoring about the immigration at the border, asylum basically being granted temporarily for anyone who shows up at the border. That's much more concern among the working class voters, who so far are making it a very tough climb for Vice President Harris tonight.
Yeah, it's fascinating to try to piece all of this together, because some of the trends that we're spotting in demographics, Matthew, will make for quite distressing reading, actually, for the Democrats. NBC suggests that in Pennsylvania, Latino voters drift towards Trump. Trump won in Florida. The allegiance of Latino voters a big reason. The state's 3 Hispanic majority counties, including Miami-Dade, Trump was 8 points behind in 2020, winning by more than 10 points in 2024. I mean, the data is pretty miserable for Kamala Harris at this point.
Yeah, the data is really miserable for those of us who want to see a Harris victory, and for those of us who care about reproductive rights and immigration rights and more. This is a bruising night so far. I think the politics of Florida are really complicated and don't necessarily have a good read across for the Latino and Hispanic vote across the country. But it is clear that Democrats have lost ground amongst traditionally strong constituencies. The some of the exit polling tonight shows that across the country as a whole, 67% of people think that the economy is bad or very poor for them. And that is the economic impact of inflation and the economic impact in an economy that is skewed against people who work every day for a living is felt across the country, whatever your background. And people have seem to have voted to express that anger.
Really fascinating hearing from both of you. Thank you both for your time. There's lots happening, and we will catch up again soon. That's Matthew McGregor, who worked in the Obama White House, and John McHenry, the Vice President at North Star Opinion Research. Just want to bring you this from Elon Musk, who tweets game, set and match. We know that he's been spending the night, should rephrase that, he's been spending the night at Donald Trump's, not with Donald Trump necessarily, that might get us in all sorts of bother. Right, 17 minutes past 5. It's of course not over till it's over. The power lies, of course, with the swing states. We've only had one projection so far. That is North Carolina, and it's 16 electoral votes going for Donald Trump. Professor David Schultz joins us once again. He has written on presidential swing states. David, hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me again.
No, thank you, David. We're glad to have you on. One of my questions, actually, about the remaining swing states is at what point they can be called. Georgia has been sitting on more than 95% of the vote counted for quite some time, and Trump seems to be ahead by maybe 2.5 at this point. When will that become safe for a call?
I think it's probably going to become safe for a call within just a matter of a couple of hours. What we're still waiting on is some remaining numbers that are going to come in from, let us say, the Georgia suburbs. But if all the exit polls are correct, Harris is not doing well in the suburbs and certainly not bringing in those suburban women in the way she needed to do so. So my suspicion is that even when those suburbs start to come in, they're not going to break in the numbers for her. So I'm going to guess within a couple of hours of United States time, we're going to see Georgia called. And it's really going to come down to at this point now that Harris is going to have to win, the blue wall states. It's going to have to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and then still hope she picks up Omaha, which she's probably likely to do so. But right now, the numbers are not looking good for her in the blue wall states. And it's looking much, much stronger for Donald Trump than many people thought.
Yeah. In terms of Harris's route back from this, the sort of data just keeps on coming in a bad way for her. This report in Detroit, in the upscale Detroit suburbs that helped deliver the White House to Joe Biden in 2020, Kamala Harris is running behind Biden tonight. I mean, still votes to be counted. But it's another suburban area where Harris has not performed as well as Democrats had hoped. And this is just a mounting story for Harris, underperforming and doing worse than Biden did.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the Democrats and Harris was clearly counting on, they were counting on the abortion issue as the pathway to the White House, much in the same way the abortion issue kind of helped them in the midterm elections 2 years ago. And at the end of the day, it's still the economy. But I'm not going to even clarify. It's not so much the economy, it's the prices. That people are looking at the price of milk, bread, eggs, the basic staples being more expensive now than they were 4 years ago. And that's really what's driving them and driving those suburban voters at the end of the day. And what Harris never did was to really break far enough away from Donald Trump to say, I'm sorry, Harris didn't break enough from Joe Biden to say, here's where I would go differently in terms of my presidential campaign. And I think the Democrats never tried to make the argument very effectively about how well they thought the economy was doing. And so a lot of strategic mistakes we're going to look at here. But I'm also going to say that one of the other strategic mistakes that people are going to think about here involves my governor. I'm in Minnesota, and they picked Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, to be the vice presidential candidate, thinking that he would somehow appeal to working class voters in, again, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, instead of going with somebody like Josh Shapiro, a much more popular governor of Pennsylvania. That's going to turn out, I think, to also be a strategic mistake if, in fact, Harris winds up losing the presidential election. So there's going to be a lot of, proverbial hand-wringing in the next few days in terms of mistakes and paths that Harris should have taken and should have actually done, because she had those opportunities. She had opportunities in terms of being in the lead, although very, very slight, up until a couple of weeks ago. And I think in some sense did not really make all the right decisions in terms of talking about the issues or mobilizing those voters that she needed to mobilize.
David Schultz, thank you very much indeed. Professor David Schultz, an expert on presidential swing states.